Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Sanji, and today I've decided to bring up another anime poll. So here is the poll, and this time I did One Piece. Now, what if Luffy didn't exist? You already know Monkey D. Luffy with the power of a monster, innocence of a child. Okay, he looks like a child, but definitely is not. Uh, and all the power plus him being the fool. Yeah, he pretty much fits as a pretty likable protagonist. There is nothing you can hate about Luffy. But even with all that, um, whom would you choose as the main protagonist of One Piece if Luffy didn't exist? That's my question. Suppose you still have to come up with a circumstance like in an alternate universe if Luffy didn't exist. It's totally possible for Luffy to not exist. So for that reason, I actually got these options on my mind. These are the only options. These are the only ones who can become the main protagonist of One Piece if Luffy didn't exist in an alternate universe days. First of all is Ace. First of all, okay, I'm coming with them one by one. Protagonist. The first option that obviously comes in our mind is Ace. Okay, now unfortunately the truth was tragic. He didn't really got the moments he needed. Yes, he did got the fight, especially with Marshall Lee Teach. That was the only battle he could do well. Others, he had got a pretty good story, let me just say. Ace, Luffy, and Sabo. These three together, they were like a trio. And if Luffy didn't exist, it would have been a duo, probably Ace and Sabo together. And let me just say, it have made it far more interesting to see this duo. They were already a duo. Luffy just came in as a trio. So original factor is he was technically the original protagonist, or the alternate protagonist could be Sabo. Both makes sense. Oh, come on, he was freaking at me. Don't be like that, okay. Anyways, so, alright. Quite obviously, it would make far more sense for Ace to be the protagonist if Luffy didn't exist, because yeah, he's technically the one who Luffy sees as a brother. And he does pretty well. He has got the fire fruit, which is pretty good. He's got some awesome skills, the awesome protagonist energy. He's got that exact thing that a protagonist should have, which is obviously making a pretty good choice. And also his story with Whitebeard is seriously a pretty good plot for a great story. Shirohige himself and the crew, they would have made things far more lively, and him not wanting to be like his father. His father was Goldie Roger, which actually makes him a pretty interesting choice. Being the son of a famous someone, it's a pretty commonly used things in anime, and no matter what, it's a pretty commonly used trope in anime culture, I guess, or manga culture, whatever you say. So yes, that's also another one of the reasons, and the final reason being, he is just he can also be funny at times. Yeah, though rarely, I'd say if he had gotten more screen time, we could have seen more of him. He could have been a far more likable character. Yes, he was indeed likable even if he didn't have that many moments. He did, and he could have been the one taking down Blackbeard in that case, or probably losing, and well, could have been rescued, could have gone the other way, by the way. The execution probably could have been stopped any other ways. But yeah, if he were the protagonist, it would have been pretty interesting to see. Okay, now let's move on to the next. And it's none other than him, Sabo. And you probably know, yeah, he is as eligible as Ace. Yeah, they both were like brothers to Luffy. And technically to see, he was the one, he was the partner of Ace, and it makes a lot more sense for him to be considered protagonist. Like not only just Ace, it could have been a dual protagonist series probably, Ace and Sabo. And Sabo in place of Ace, Yeah, in the normal universe, I don't think Ace would have been saved anyways, which makes Sabo a pretty potentially debatable choice. I mean, not only just Ace probably could have died anyways, I guess. Even if Luffy didn't exist, even if Luffy existed, probably things would have gone the other way. He may not even have to be executed. I don't yet really know. But yes, for what Sabo did in place of Ace, and for the fact that he joined the Revolutionary Army, which I don't think could have been changed anyways. He probably was meant to be in a Revolutionary Army. And for his actions, for the way he's actually like the in a higher rank, his interpretations are pretty interesting to me. And honestly speaking, it would make far more sense for him to become the protagonist. Yeah, just like Ace. I mean, I'm not saying Ace is also an equally eligible choice, but so does Sabo. I mean, I am not really able to decide whom will I pick as a potential protagonist choice. These are my top two choices, by the way. So yeah, Sabo definitely qualifies for the choice. And yeah, you can't forget, he actually inherited the Fire fruit. Even without the Fire fruit, he did pretty well. So yeah, that's why Sabo is a pretty good choice. He could have probably been the one. I mean, working as the Revolutionary Army. The Revolutionary Army itself is pretty interesting, fighting against the government. That, I mean, totally revolution versus government. It would have been pretty interesting, and him being the protagonist of the series, I mean, that would have made it a far more better series. I don't know, but yes, it would have been equally great with Sabo as a protagonist. That's a lot to say. So well, let's move on to the next one then. Alright, you realize this clown face? Do you or do you not? Okay, now you may be asking, is he seriously the protagonist? Well, he cannot be the protagonist. It's just a mistake, it's just a comedy, right? Yeah, sort of. But if we think seriously, he's not really a very bad idea for a protagonist material. Here's the point. He was the one who obviously I forgot to mention Shanks himself is a pretty good choice for protagonist due to the fact that they were traveling with Goldie Roger. Both of them could have become, and yes, he was also one of Shanks' rival who also traveled with Goldie Roger even when they were a child. So yes, that would have made far more sense for even Shanks to be Shanks or Shanks to become the protagonist. Yeah, just like the one he wanting to find One Piece, just like that. Yes. Now, why did I pick Buggy? By the way, Buggy is technically just a comedy relief type of guy who is just doing all bad stuff, villainous stuff, even though he isn't that good. Though even when he's joining the trio, I mean, he's actually a Yonko with this two crocodile and I guess his what was his name? Dracula Mihawk. Yeah, Dracula Mihawk. He's in triad with those, but still he's the one ending up as the comedy relief, one getting threatened and all. Even though he was a rival with Shanks, which is a pretty weird thing to. Okay, anyways. So the thing about Buggy is he could have been a pretty good wildcard entry for this part. Okay, he could have made this series a parody one. And again, as I said, I am really thinking of parodies here. And it could have been turned into a parody series where you can see Buggy, the Adventures of Buggy Bradley. It should have been named like that. Just think about it. Wouldn't it have been interesting? I mean, it could just feature him being the villain, trying to do best up but failing every time, sort of like that. Yes. Also getting beaten by the good guys, but still not giving up. And he's just gonna go on and yes, getting scared, being the coward, fighting, etc. He could have made a pretty interesting choice. A villainy comedian, a villainous comedian, weirdly enough, yeah. And his crew would have been pretty interestingly a parody series. So for that reason I had Buggy as a choice. And still the fact that he was with Roger's crew also gives him another badge for support for being on the list as the potential protagonist. So yes, for that reason I picked Buggy. It's a pretty weirdly interesting choice, right? Anyways, this is Usopp. So for Usopp, why did I even pick Usopp? Okay, it's almost the same logic like Buggy. So, well, it's pretty clear. He's a comedian, and he obviously tries to act as a hero. He looks like a hero, except he runs away. And he's trying to be the main protagonist. So why not make him? He can always give the choice when he's just demanding to become the main protagonist. Why not make him? Why not give him a chance? That's my question. What do you think about it? Shouldn't he be given the chance to become the protagonist? He's our god, Usopp. Yes, he's the God Usopp. He will make a lot of sense. I mean, he's just gonna be the protagonist of nonsense, the protagonist of power. Okay, the protagonist of target. I mean, he would never miss a target, which he actually does. He's got a pretty good aim, which makes him a pretty good potential choice. Plus, his father being in Sang's crew, who is again related to Goldie Roger. See the connection? The tri connections also makes a bit of sense. I mean, even if not totally, but it totally makes a bit of sense. Plus, he's the same age as Luffy, which again makes sense. And well, even though in Luffy's absence he would have just been going around lying, he could have become sort of like a fairy tale character. Okay, not fairy tale anime, but I'm talking about really real fairy tale. Yeah, sort of just lying and just going sort of like the fairy tale story of the wolf and the the boy who sells wolf sort of guy. Yeah, and he's absolutely lie, which makes his nose long. Yeah, a real Pinocchio-like character, don't you think? Okay, anyways, we're not wasting time with this. Let's get on to a serious mode. Though I'd say they are definitely worthy to sign as the protagonist, they can also be given some chance. But yeah. The next choice is Zoro. And why on TV? It's a pretty obvious choice. Okay, so Zoro technically, okay, the series would be different with Zoro though. Zoro was actually like who was trapped for being a criminal. Okay, for being feared, he was trapped by the marine, and he had got the Santorio, which is actually indeed a pretty interesting concept. Well, with Luffy's absence, I guess he probably could have been the prisoner. I don't really know, but if things would have been a bit different, he could have been a potentially good protagonist. Except I don't think One Piece would have been One Piece. He won't have become a pirate because he doesn't like. He would have been staying as the sword fighter who loses his way. It could have been a comedy action type of series with Zoro, like the Santorio style guy. So if it were to focus on Zoro, it also would have made it very interesting to see a journey of a swordsman who just cuts his way through. That's right, would have been interesting, but except loses his way all the time. That was why I picked Zoro as a potential choice, and also not losing any battle. He could have taken down pirates all on his own because he's the pirate hunter Zoro. So it really could be against the pirates, except not themed on pirates. It could become something like the sword fighter. Yeah, it would focus on sword fighting and pirates. The pirates would be the villains, and he may even fight against the marines. He probably could be hired to take down pirates by the marines, maybe. I don't know, but yes, it probably could have revolved around him. And maybe he could have taken down the bad pirates, not the good ones. Good ones mean someone like Luffy or some grey pirates. I mean, not really the bad, good ones. The exact bad types. So it could have been focused on his journey and loyalty altogether. Yeah, would have been interesting on its own. Okay, now before I start, I forgot to mention about one thing about Zoro. Yeah, his backstory of Queen also makes a lot of sense, which can also progress the story far more well. He can also sort of have that direction. Anyways, now let's start talking about Sanji. So well, the reason I picked Sanji is he is the cook first of all. Being the cook obviously gives a pretty unique feeling to it, and we also have some cook protagonists in probably some anime. I don't really know, but I guess there are. You all probably know. I haven't seen much anime, so I can't tell. But it's obviously, even if they don't exist, cooks are a very interesting choice. Like it could follow his cooking journey, the number of dishes he can make, and probably even get better, I guess. Obviously, having all the skills of being the cook is already a pretty compelling choice for a protagonist. And I think Toriko, we had something like Toriko and someone called Soma. Yeah, there were some characters in anime. I hadn't seen them, but I know sort of. So just like that, he could probably become the cook on his journey. Except he would obviously be skilled. Yeah, he would be prepared, and obviously you can follow his cooking journey. And it could be shown from in his entire childhood. He has got an entire backstory. His Beanstalk's family, his entire family, and Beanstalk. The entire Big Mom arc was mostly based on Sanji, by the way. So that obviously makes him a pretty interesting choice for a protagonist because he had that protagonist energy in him. Okay, flirty with girls, that also counts as protagonist energy. Plus he's got personality. He has got a dream of finding the all blue, which gives him a pretty much a final mission. As a protagonist, probably. Anyways, and also can't really miss the nosebleeds, I guess. I mean, you fan of that? That could probably be counted as sort of comedy relief. So he has got all the stuff. So definitely counts a lot well, and with a better backstory, by the way. So I think he's a far more compelling choice, even compared to Zoro. Yeah, this is my personal opinion. Now, you may feel like, yeah, Zoro is sort of looking like Berserk Guts from Berserk anime. Yeah, he sort of gives me that Guts vibe if we look at him closely. But Sanji is what can I say, the cook on the journey, except with personality and all. Plus with a very good backstory, being from the Beanstalk family and rejected. That actually adds a lot of depth. And I think the cook or the pirate, I forgot his name, who raised him, that entire backstory was pretty good. It wasn't entirely pretty much worthy of making a pretty good story. I mean, Sanji's backstory plus his entire life itself. And I think that Captain Zep, whatever, he probably could have sent him on his journey anyways, because I think I somehow feel like, yes, he would have wanted him to be independent and find his own path. So obviously that's pretty much the way I feel. I said my entire feeling about it. There is no need, and you may feel different. Be sure to share in the comments, and maybe you can also come up with some better choices. Okay, it's not yet over, by the way. And the final one on the list is none other than Marshall Lee Teach. Wow, poetic, right? Yeah. And there is a pretty good reason. You all will agree with me. I know this. He pretty much is Luffy. The opposite form, that is. Yeah, stop. Oh, there was a bit of interruption. Okay, don't mind this. And specifically that part. Whatever Luffy likes, he doesn't like. That was a pretty good symbolism of their hinting personalities, because he's definitely the villain side of Luffy, or you can say the opposite side of Luffy. So yes, that would have made it a lot more sense for him to become the protagonist in Luffy's absence, because it totally was. He would have been. And he, by the way, also is pretty much on the freedom side. We are free to do anything. So yeah, he's got that personality of his own. And that makes him sort of likable, not totally. It's just a bit, I guess. The freedom part. Even Eren Yeager says the same thing, freedom. And I really like this thing about every characters. Whoever says freedom, even though they could be the most hateable characters. But this is just a millimeter part, I guess. Yeah. His journey was obviously full of betrayals. He joined Shirohige only to betray. He has got a pretty good story. He has got He just leaves with betrayals. That's it. That makes him a pretty compelling character for a protagonist because he could somehow become something like an anti-hero, not great anti-hero, a villainous protagonist. That's right, only the betraying pirate would have made absolute sense for a pirate because pirates are generally meant to be evil in general cases. So it could follow the story of Marshall Lee Teach, who would be the main protagonist, and his crew. They would be the ruthless pirates whom everyone, yeah, sort of like Eren Yeager or Light Yagami you may think, but he's totally not. He's gonna be different. I mean, he would feel one thing, freedom. Freedom is good for him, yeah, and you will probably like him winning the battles, winning against the other bad guys, but yes, he would also go up against, he's not a good guy though, which is the problem, and the way he took down Ace, he actually had power, and his main power is his wickedness, and taking advantage or looking for the opening, playing dirty, that's the tactic. So for that reason, it feels pretty unique to have a protagonist who sort of plays dirty, wins, and just goes on doing bad things. It would make quite a different type of environment. It could be used as an experiment for making some anime. I mean, just think about it. If an anime was made sort of like with his sort of character like him, it would have been something unique, something that you won't be able to. You want to root for him, but yet it's not a good thing. Plus, he's not really like Light Yagami or Eren Yeager, whom you probably would have at least had some support, but this guy just cannot be supported yet. You want support, so it itself is very weirdly hateable, weirdly interesting. I don't really know. This just compelled me to think of him as a protagonist idea. That's it. It's weird and all, etc. Okay. So, what do you feel about my choices? Be sure to put in the comments. I always see them. And I'll want it to be a discussion. If you don't agree with any of my picks, you are free to let me know in the comments. And be sure to share so that I can, so that many people can hear about it. Because, it's important to get feedback and opinions may differ. So don't feel pressurized not to put your opinions, even if it's wrong. I mean, even if people may hate you, don't get pressurized not to put comments. Do put it. I'm free with it, and I'm fine if you don't agree with any of my picks. You can also suggest some other picks which I probably could have missed. There are many other protagonists that I didn't really discuss in the video. So yeah, you are free to post their names too. Anyways, we'll see you all in the next video.